Doc, how you been?
Why don't you go back where you came from?
Well, what happened to you? Somebody pulled you through a knot?
You won't believe what just happened in this iconic Gunsmoke scene. It wasn't edited out, and now it's the talk of the town. This hilarious blooper slipped past the cameras, leaving fans stunned. Watch closely as a simple mistake turned into one of the most unforgettable moments in the show's history. Get ready for a closer look at this uncut gem. It's not your typical blooper reel. You won't want to miss this behind-the-scenes moment. The early days of Gunsmoke were nothing short of revolutionary, both for television and the Western genre. It all started back in 1952, when Gunsmoke was first introduced as a radio show. Back then, radio dramas were a dominant form of entertainment, and people across the country tuned in to listen to their favorite programs. Gunsmoke quickly became one of the most popular shows on the airwaves, captivating listeners with its intense drama and realistic portrayal of life in the Old West. The show was a perfect fit for radio. Its gripping storytelling and strong character-driven plots kept people on the edge of their seats. The show's central character, Marshal Matt Dillon, was portrayed by William Conrad on the radio. He was a no-nonsense lawman who fought to maintain order in Dodge City, Kansas, a town full of dangerous outlaws and complicated moral dilemmas. The radio version of Gunsmoke set the tone for everything that came later. It wasn't just about gunfights or the typical cowboy showdown. It was about exploring the human side of the characters, their personal struggles, and the complexities of the world they inhabited. This approach resonated with audiences, making Gunsmoke stand out among other Western radio programs. But the real turning point for Gunsmoke came in 1955, when the show made the leap to television. The transition from radio to TV was a gamble, as the world of television was still young, and many radio shows had failed to capture the same magic once they moved to the small screen. However, CBS believed in the potential of Gunsmoke and took a risk. The show found a new life on TV, and it quickly became one of the most watched programs in the country. The TV adaptation of Gunsmoke was a bit different from its radio roots. The show's format changed, and it was given a full 30-minute episode, which allowed for more in-depth stories and character development. Marshal Matt Dillon was now played by James Arness, who would go on to become synonymous with the role. Arness brought a level of gravitas to the character that resonated with viewers, making Matt Dillon a true icon of the American West. His portrayal of the lawman was tough yet compassionate, a perfect balance that helped make the show so popular. What made Gunsmoke stand out from other westerns of the time was its mature storytelling. Unlike other shows that focused solely on action, Gunsmoke delved into deeper themes such as justice, loyalty, and the moral gray areas that existed in the Wild West. It wasn't just about the gunfights, although those were certainly exciting. It was about the consequences of those actions and the human beings who had to deal with them. This was a show that didn't shy away from the harsh realities of frontier life. The gritty, realistic portrayal of Dodge City and its inhabitants drew people in, making it feel like a real, living world rather than a fictional backdrop. The early success of Gunsmoke was also a reflection of the changing landscape of television itself. The mid-50s saw the rise of color TV, and Gunsmoke helped usher in the era of the modern TV Western. Its success proved that there was an audience for adult-themed dramas that explored real-world issues, even if they were set in the past. This would go on to influence the development of other shows in the years to come, from crime dramas to historical epics. In those early years, Gunsmoke captured the public's imagination. It became more than just a TV show. It became a cultural touchstone. Fans tuned in week after week, not just for the action, but for the characters they had come to care about. The show set the standard for what a Western could be on television, blending thrilling action with complex, nuanced characters and stories that made people think long after the credits rolled. It was the beginning of something special, something that would last for 2 decades and leave an undeniable legacy in the world of TV. Gunsmoke didn't just survive the shifting tides of television, it thrived. From its inception in 1955, it became the cornerstone of the Western genre on TV. While many other shows had their moment in the spotlight and faded into obscurity, Gunsmoke carved out a legacy that stood the test of time. Its ability to evolve with the changing times, both in terms of television programming and societal shifts, is a testament to its lasting popularity and influence. At its peak, Gunsmoke was a juggernaut of television, dominating the ratings and drawing millions of viewers every week. The show became more than just a simple Western drama. It was an integral part of American culture, setting the standard for what a Western on TV could be. Unlike other Westerns of its time, Gunsmoke wasn't just about rugged cowboys and shootouts. It explored complex characters and dealt with tough, real-world issues that weren't often touched upon in other shows. It was a show about justice, about right and wrong, and about the moral complexities of living in a lawless land. In its early years, Gunsmoke was revolutionary for television. The show's ability to balance action with emotional depth helped it stand out from other westerns. While there were plenty of gunfights and dramatic moments, what made Gunsmoke truly compelling were its characters and the way it delved into their lives. Marshal Matt Dillon, played by James Arness, wasn't just a lawman. He was a deeply human character with his own struggles, doubts, and moral dilemmas. His relationships with other characters, Doc Adams, Chester, Miss Kitty, added layers to the show that kept viewers coming back. It wasn't just about the plot. It was about how the characters interacted, grew, and dealt with the challenges they faced. As television evolved, so did Gunsmoke. By the early 1960s, the show had transitioned to a one-hour format, allowing for more complex storytelling and character development. This shift helped Gunsmoke remain relevant and maintain its audience even as other westerns came and went. Shows like Bonanza and Rawhide were popular in their own right, but none had the staying power of Gunsmoke. The move to one-hour episodes allowed the show to explore deeper themes, such as the emotional toll of violence, the complexities of frontier justice, and the personal lives of the characters. The show didn't just focus on the action, it focused on the people who lived through it. One of the reasons Gunsmoke endured for so long was its ability to adapt to the changing tastes of TV audiences. By the mid-1960s, the cultural landscape of America was shifting dramatically. The Vietnam War, the Civil Rights Movement, and the counterculture were all shaping the national conversation. Gunsmoke mirrored some of these changes, subtly incorporating more mature and complex themes. The show began to address issues like PTSD, corruption, and the moral cost of war. It reflected the changing times, showing that westerns weren't just about cowboys riding off into the sunset. They could be about real people grappling with real-world issues, even if those issues were set in the 19th century. The show's longevity also had a lot to do with the people behind it. The cast and crew of Gunsmoke were committed to making the show as authentic and compelling as possible. James Arness, who played Marshal Dillon, became synonymous with the role. He stayed with the show from start to finish, and his dedication to the character was a big part of the show's success. Arness was known for his strong, stoic portrayal of Dillon, but he also brought vulnerability to the role, showing that even a tough lawman could be affected by the violence and chaos around him. Arness's commitment to the show, even when it became physically taxing, was a testament to his love for the character and the show's legacy. But it wasn't just Arness who made the show great. The supporting cast, including Milburn Stone as Doc Adams, Dennis Weaver as Chester, and Amanda Blake as Miss Kitty, brought their own depth to the show. Their characters were more than just sidekicks. They were integral parts of the world of Gunsmoke. Each of them had their own personal stories and struggles, which added richness to the show. Miss Kitty, for example, wasn't just a saloon owner. She had a complex relationship with Marshal Dillon, one that never fully crossed into romance but was always present as a strong emotional connection. These characters gave the show heart, making it more than just a collection of gunfights. As the show's popularity continued to grow, Gunsmoke became a staple of American television. It won multiple Emmy Awards and consistently ranked as one of the top-rated shows in America. Even though it wasn't the most watched show in the latter years of its run, it remained a significant cultural force. In fact, by 1975, Gunsmoke had become the longest-running scripted primetime show in history, a title it held until The Simpsons surpassed it in 2018. The fact that Gunsmoke maintained such a strong audience for 2 decades speaks to its lasting appeal and the deep connection it had with its viewers. But despite its success, the end of Gunsmoke came unexpectedly. In 1975, CBS decided to cancel the show without giving the cast or crew any warning. James Arness and the rest of the team found out about the cancellation through trade papers, which was a shocking and bittersweet way for the show to end. There was no grand finale, no last episode that wrapped everything up neatly. The show simply ended, leaving fans devastated. However, even though Gunsmoke went off the air, it didn't disappear. The show's legacy lived on in reruns, and the 5 made-for-TV movies that aired in the years following the cancellation gave fans one last chance to spend time with their favorite characters. Gunsmoke remains one of the most iconic TV shows of all time. It broke barriers for television westerns, proving that a show about the Old West could be more than just action. It could explore deep themes of morality, justice, and human connection. The show's popularity and influence have been undeniable, and its impact on television cannot be overstated. Gunsmoke will forever be remembered as one of the greatest TV shows of its time, a show that pushed the boundaries of what a Western could be and paved the way for future generations of television programming. Gunsmoke may have been a polished television show, but behind the scenes, it was filled with surprises, challenges, and moments that fans never saw. The show ran for 20 years, and throughout its 2 decades on air, there were countless stories, some funny and some revealing, about what went on behind the camera. The cast and crew worked tirelessly to create the world of Dodge City, and there were many interesting facts that the public didn't get to see. One of the most interesting parts of Gunsmoke's behind-the-scenes world was its casting process. James Arness, who played Marshal Matt Dillon, was a key figure in making the show a success. Arness had an incredible commitment to the show, and his loyalty to the character was a big reason Gunsmoke lasted as long as it did. What many fans may not know is that Arness wasn't the first choice for the role of Matt Dillon. In fact, the producers initially considered other actors, including William Conrad, who had already voiced the character on the radio. However, the role of Dillon on television went to Arness, thanks to a recommendation from John Wayne. Wayne had a deep respect for Arness, and his endorsement was crucial in securing the role for him. Despite the initial uncertainty around the casting, Arness went on to embody the character so completely that many fans couldn't imagine anyone else playing the role. His height, standing at 6 feet, was one of the most defining aspects of his performance. Arness's imposing figure added an air of authority to Marshal Dillon, but it also became a bit of a challenge when it came to filming. Arness was known for his dedication to the show, and despite suffering from arthritis in later years, he continued to give it his all. In fact, to accommodate his pain, many of his scenes were filmed early in the day before the stiffness in his joints set in. His commitment to the role didn't go unnoticed, and it's no surprise that Arness became synonymous with Gunsmoke for fans. The show's long-running success also had a lot to do with its supporting cast. Milburn Stone played Doc Adams, the town's physician, who quickly became a fan favorite. What many fans might not know is that Stone wasn't always intended to be the character's first choice either. The role of Doc Adams was supposed to be more of a side character, but Stone's portrayal of the gruff yet lovable doctor became so popular that it expanded into a much bigger role. His chemistry with Arness was key to the show's success. The two developed a friendship that translated onto the screen, making their on-screen interactions feel authentic and natural. Another beloved character was Miss Kitty Russell, played by Amanda Blake. Miss Kitty was more than just a saloon owner. She was a central part of Dodge City's community. While there were no overt romantic relationships shown between her and Marshal Dillon, their bond was undeniable. Blake worked hard for the role of Miss Kitty, and she was determined to make an impression. She once chased the producers until they finally gave her the part. While Miss Kitty was a strong and independent character, Blake herself faced many personal challenges during the show's run. Blake had a close relationship with her co-stars, especially with Glenn Strange, who played Sam the bartender. Strange's passing in 1973 deeply affected the cast, and Blake in particular took it hard, as they had become very close friends. There were also many other interesting characters, both on and off screen, who played vital roles in Gunsmoke's success. One of the most notable was Ken Curtis, who played Festus Hagen. Curtis brought a lot of heart and humor to his role, and Festus became one of the show's most beloved characters. What many fans don't know is that Curtis wasn't always Festus. Early in the show, he appeared in a variety of different roles, but he didn't find his true character until later in the series. Festus was a rough-and-tumble character, a perfect foil to Matt Dillon's calm demeanor. Curtis brought real-life experiences into his portrayal of Festus, even basing some of the character's personality traits on a man he knew growing up. This personal connection helped make Festus feel like a genuine part of the Gunsmoke family. The behind-the-scenes world of Gunsmoke wasn't just about the actors. There were many people working tirelessly behind the camera to bring the show to life. The production team had to ensure that every detail was perfect, from the authentic Western sets to the horses used in the show. In fact, some of the horses used in the show became just as famous as the actors. They were trained to work on the set and even developed close relationships with the cast, especially Arness, who had a special bond with his horse Buck. The crew also had to navigate some technical challenges. For instance, many of the early episodes of Gunsmoke were filmed in black and white, which wasn't uncommon for the time. However, as color television became more popular, Gunsmoke had to adjust. The show's producers worked hard to ensure that the transition to color was smooth. This meant changing the way sets were designed, the lighting was arranged, and even how the actors interacted with the camera. Gunsmoke embraced these changes and used them to enhance its storytelling. Another interesting behind-the-scenes secret was how the show dealt with its gunfights. Gunsmoke was known for its shootouts, which were a central part of many episodes. However, what fans didn't know was just how carefully these scenes were choreographed. The stunt coordinators worked closely with the actors to ensure that the gunfights looked realistic while also keeping the actors safe. James Arness, who portrayed Matt Dillon, was involved in many of these scenes, and his height and physique made him the perfect candidate for these intense moments. Arness wasn't just an actor, he was a key part of the action, always making sure that the scenes were as thrilling as possible. One of the lasting impacts of Gunsmoke was how it helped shape future westerns on television. The success of Gunsmoke set the standard for other Western series that came after it. Shows like Bonanza and The Big Valley took inspiration from Gunsmoke's mix of action and drama. Gunsmoke proved that a Western could be about more than just cowboys and shootouts. It could be about real people, with real struggles, living in a world filled with danger and uncertainty. This shift in perspective helped elevate the genre, turning it into something more complex and layered. The impact of Gunsmoke went beyond just television. It helped define what a TV Western could be. The show's success created opportunities for more Western dramas. But it also opened doors for a new wave of television programming that wasn't afraid to tackle complex themes. The legacy of Gunsmoke is still felt today. Many modern TV shows, especially those with deep characters and complex narratives, owe something to the path that Gunsmoke paved. It wasn't just about creating a TV show. It was about creating a cultural touchstone that would influence the future of television. The secrets behind Gunsmoke's success weren't just about the actors or the crew. They were about a commitment to telling compelling stories, stories that resonated with viewers, stories that made people think, and stories that made Gunsmoke stand out as one of the greatest television shows ever made. Even now, decades after it went off the air, Gunsmoke continues to be remembered and loved by fans. Its legacy is a testament to the power of good storytelling and the timeless appeal of the American West. The legacy of Gunsmoke is undeniably vast, continuing to impact the world of television and pop culture long after the show ended its historic 20-year run. The series, which originally aired from 1955 to 1975, not only solidified its place in TV history as one of the longest-running scripted series of all time, but also shaped the future of television storytelling, particularly in the Western genre. It left behind an indelible mark on the entertainment industry and influenced numerous aspects of television production, character development, and even language. One of the most significant aspects of Gunsmoke's legacy is how it elevated the Western genre from being just about cowboys and shootouts to a nuanced storytelling platform. While the show undoubtedly delivered its fair share of action-packed scenes, it was the character-driven plots and rich storylines that set Gunsmoke apart from many of its contemporaries. The show wasn't just a showcase of lawmen and outlaws, it was about people, their struggles, their morality, and their relationships. In a genre that had often been characterized by simplistic good versus evil narratives, Gunsmoke introduced deeper characters and more complex themes, such as justice, honor, loyalty, and redemption. This transformation in how Westerns could be portrayed helped pave the way for other shows that explored similar themes with greater depth. The show's central character, Marshal Matt Dillon, played by James Arness, was a key to its success. Dillon wasn't just a sheriff enforcing the law. He was a man of integrity, a figure that viewers could look up to, especially in the morally complicated world of the Old West. He wasn't afraid to make tough choices, but he also struggled with the consequences of his actions. This complexity in a character was a revolutionary step in the portrayal of protagonists on television at the time, particularly in a genre that had often been marked by one-dimensional heroes. Arness's portrayal of Dillon made him one of television's most enduring characters, a symbol of moral fortitude and resolve. Gunsmoke also significantly influenced future television shows both within the Western genre and beyond. Shows like Bonanza, The Big Valley, and Rawhide followed in Gunsmoke's footsteps, but none quite matched its cultural footprint. The series showed that a Western could be more than just a weekly adventure. It could be a platform to explore complex social issues, relationships, and human emotions, making it a forerunner of the kind of storytelling seen in later decades on shows like The Sopranos, Breaking Bad, and The West Wing. These shows followed in the footsteps of Gunsmoke, blending drama and action while exploring the intricacies of human nature. The show's success was also rooted in its consistent ability to adapt to changing times. As the cultural landscape evolved, Gunsmoke wasn't afraid to evolve with it. One of the most notable changes was its shift from half-hour episodes to one-hour episodes in 1961, which allowed for deeper character exploration and more complex narratives. Gunsmoke also embraced the changing political and social climate of the 1960s and 1970s, addressing issues like poverty, injustice, and the abuse of power. This ability to adapt not only helped the show remain relevant, but also set a precedent for future shows that would tackle complex issues head-on.